All right. Hello, everybody. So I'm Dr. Tara Lewis, the Student Success Specialist for Cybersecurity, and I'm here today with Damon Cook. So he is a cybersecurity consultant and has a lot of really great experience to share with y'all. Please be sure to, ask some questions. You can either raise your hand or put your questions in the chat, and then I'll have questions as well. So let's get going. So Damon, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Tyra.
All right. So if you wouldn't mind kind of telling us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Yeah, my name is Damon Cook. I'm the CEO of Cook Consulting Group. I help small to medium-sized businesses with everything cybersecurity. So usually, if someone has any type of issue, whether it's a hiring issue or dealing with malware or a breach, they'll bring me in to help them figure it out, make sense of it, and if it's something I can do, I'll handle it. If not, it's something, I'll have somebody on my team get to. But yeah, I started off just a recruitment firm because I noticed that there was a disconnect between hiring managers and recruiters in cybersecurity. And my background being in cybersecurity, I thought I'd be a better talent evaluator than most recruiters. And then it started to evolve to end cybersecurity consultation because just the nature and people needing all this different help made me grow my business in that direction. So been doing this since June of 2020 and have my ups and downs, but really taken off and done some great work for clients in the past 4.5 years. So
I would imagine June of 2020 was kind of a difficult time to get started.
yeah, but it was also a time where possibilities were endless. Things were changing. There was a lot of focus on diversity after the George Floyd thing, and that's where I started off as a diversity cybersecurity recruitment firm, and then just had more and more ask, and had to expand the services. But it was an unsure time, but it was very exciting time. I didn't know much what I was doing, but learned a lot in the process, and makes things easier for now. Sure.
Good. Cool. So what got you into cybersecurity?
Um, I was working in physical security. By physical security, I mean badges, locks, doors, facilities type stuff, evacuation plans. But when I told people that I was in physical security, they just all assumed I was like a security guard standing up in front of a building. So I wanted to change that perception because that wasn't it. And honestly, I just started hearing about how much money people were making in cybersecurity. And I was like, I'll never make that type of money in physical security. So it took me a couple years of networking and self-studying and talking to anybody who will listen about, hey, I'm interested in cybersecurity, to make that switch. But yeah, I was trying to change that perception. And so I went from being looked at as a security guard to then people saying, oh, well, you're a nerd. You must, know how to hack and code, which I don't know how to do either. But I'd rather have this perception than the prior perception as a physical security consultant. So
Awesome. So what was that initial start on that journey? Were you just like, let me how did you learn? How did you just start talking to people? What did that look like?
I would literally reach out to everybody I knew, anybody that was in any profession, mentors, friends of mentors. I would just start having conversations like, hey, I'm looking to get into cybersecurity. Do you know anybody I can speak to that is in cybersecurity that can learn something from? And I just started having conversations, and once I had another one conversation, they would introduce me to a friend who was in cybersecurity. So I always say, just be as loud as possible about trying to make that transition and get into the field of cybersecurity. So that was very helpful because I had a lot of different advice and people pointing me to certain certifications and certain webinars and groups and things like that. So one of my mentors to this day, he recommended I start with Security Plus, and I started studying that and really increasing my understanding of cybersecurity. In my opinion, it was not entry level certification. People say this all the time, but it's technical. It's very tough, and I
Mhm.
actually failed the certification. But yeah, at least I can speak to some of the stuff, and then I just started interviewing and let my passion come through. Like, hey, I don't have a lot of experience here. I'm transitioning from physical security, and here's why I think it's applicable. Um, But yeah, for me, it was a crash course. I was listening to everything I possibly could on cybersecurity and just really learning as much as I could as soon as possible.
So I guess what aspects of cybersecurity are you really like kind of really you lose yourself in versus areas you're like, not so much.
So the thing that really intrigued me about cybersecurity is the criminal aspect, and my background, my degree was in criminal justice, which is not a typical career path. Because most people at the time were in computer science classes. There weren't really many cybersecurity degree programs, but the criminal aspect and their motivations, why they're doing this, and people tricking people out of money, that was all fascinating to me. So that's what really got me interested in it. But right away, I knew I had certain limitations. I was not ever going to learn code. I was not ever going to be a hacker. I just didn't think I had the bandwidth or the aptitude to go down that path. But my first role in cybersecurity was in security operations. So just being that internal customer facing asset to the company, saying, "Hey, this email is legitimate. This email is phishing. This email is malware." Solving all problems and putting out fires all day on my shifts. That's where I started. Nowadays, I do more advisory stuff like GRC, so that is governance, risk, and compliance. Making sure that all the security controls that a company claims to have is operating effectively, and then explaining that risk to the business. If they're not compliant in those areas. So, I went from one side that was pretty technical to something that's not technical at all anymore. But I think having that well balanced understanding has helped me in my career for sure.
That's great. Um, what do what type of people do you think would be good for security operations versus GRC? Like, what are some of especially as a consultant, like working with other people, do you kind of see somebody and think, oh, you're a good fit for this role, or hey, maybe rethink this? Like, what does that look like?
I think that someone in security operations would have to be inquisitive and want to, learn different things for themselves, go down a rabbit hole and do a lot of research. Because in security operations, there's so many different tasks and so many different tools that you're touching, so many hats that you're wearing. So it was for me, it was a good place to learn because I worked in collaboration with every other cybersecurity team and every other business unit at the company, really. So someone who is collaborative and can work on teams. Teamwork is a big part of security operations because and a lot of these SOCs, they're 24/7, 365, and there's shift work. So, you got to communicate, on shift with your teammates on shift, and then you communicate across shift in different time zones with people that you never actually work with. So, I'll say someone who is a good teammate and inquisitive and really willing to go down the rabbit hole and investigate and figure out things on their own. Someone in GRC would have more like a lot of people in the field have audit background. So, no matter what field you're in, like a person who's done financial auditing could be also a good cybersecurity auditor or um, you know, understand compliance requirements. So that person would have to be less technical, but they have to be able to communicate risk to a business and explain, hey, well, if you don't put this security control in place, this can be the negative impact. Here's what we can do to kind of put a band-aid on it for the meantime to mitigate some of the risk and ultimately leave it up to the business to accept risk or address it. So as a GRC professional, my job is not to say no, it's just to educate the business on, hey, here's what we're seeing. Here's the risk in this based on my investigation, and we'll allow you to make that decision and sign off on that risk.
It sounds like communication is kind of one of those skills you need for every role.
Well, I think it's important for every role, but I mean, you could be a really good cybersecurity analyst in a SOC and not have to communicate much. There are some people who are just putting out fires behind the scenes and doing the technical work and doing the malware analysis and working to understand different threats and techniques and tactics. I think it's I think you can go far in security operations if you can do both, be technical and communicate. But there's I would say half the field, is not very uh comfortable communicating these things, and a good person can communicate technical risk to a non-technical crowd, which 99% of the people you're talking to, aren't going to understand those deep
Mm,
technical details of cybersecurity. You need to put it in layman's terms for them.
yeah, yeah. What are some other skills outside the technical skills do you think are going to be useful for someone going into cybersecurity?
Um, I think time management is huge, just like any other role, because you just got competing, um, deadlines and things that take more precedence. So, you might be working on one security project, but if there is something that looks like a breach, then it's going to be all hands on deck, and you're dropping that work to jump in and help others, and especially in security operations, incident response. Not one person is ever putting out a fire of that magnitude. You're working with the security team, you're working with legal, you're working with compliance, you're working with HR, at a certain level, and then you're communicating all that up to the C-suite and trying to make sure that this incident is contained as soon as possible, and that you learn from it. So yeah, I think yeah, that's very important, and obviously the technical skills can also take you a long way as well.
Mhm. So you mentioned working towards your Security Plus. What have been some other challenges that you've run into on your journey?
Well, at the beginning, the main challenge for me was, people liked me, and I interviewed 100 times, and they were like, "Hey, we really liked you, but you're just not technical enough." So I was getting that pushback. So um, I think it is important to, at the beginning, prove yourself in that way, and a certification like Security Plus could, can help you, bridge that gap and have that understanding. I think later in my career it was CISSP, which is like the master cert in cybersecurity. It's not the most technical, but it's tough. It's just a lot of information, and I failed that certification once. I'm retaking it, but it can be discouraging if you're studying for 6 months and you think you got it, and then you don't do too well. That could be discouraging. And I think another theme throughout my career, especially early in cybersecurity, is just the imposter syndrome.
Mm,
And I've just been told by 100 different people that, "Hey, you're not technical enough." And then now I'm working in a technical position, and I'm like, do I deserve to be here? Like, I was afraid to raise my hand or ask questions that would out me for not knowing anything, because I wanted to come off as I knew it all. But in cybersecurity, nobody knows it all. And if somebody does say that, they're not being honest. It's just so ever changing. There's so much to learn. So, I would definitely encourage people when they first get their start in cybersecurity to put away the doubt, and never be afraid to ask those questions. And no question is a dumb question. And especially you're working at a new job,
mhm.
you're gonna have to relearn these things anyway. So I think the imposter syndrome is has been a theme that I've had to work and suppress throughout my career.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point about relearning because a lot of our students like they're going through classes, but it's probably like drinking from a fire hose. So, you know, you're not expected to know everything when you get on the job, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Um, so let's see what else. Talked about teamwork, we talked about communication. What do you find most interesting about your job?
Just that no 2 days are the same. There's no mundaneness to it. You're just going to be faced with different challenges. Again, these cyber criminals are looking to exploit new technology the second it comes out. So whether it's a new app or a new, using AI to trick people. When I first started in cybersecurity, I could tell a phishing email right away from misspellings. Like, there are a lot of um Russian hackers or African hackers would, have a certain tone that wasn't in an American tone, and
Mhm,
it had a lot of misspellings. Now with AI, you can craft, phishing email to sound American, and sound, even use it, dialect from from New Orleans if you want to, for example. So, just seeing those changes is, something that's exciting to me. And as a person on defense, trying to just adjust my approach, every day at work. So, and then,
Mm,
just being in such a demand, I think it feels good to be in an industry where, it's still at the very beginning. You're very well needed. And as a cybersecurity consultant, the work I do is respected, and I'm treated as the expert in, almost every room that I enter. So that feels good as well.
that's cool. We do have a question, but before we get to that question, I wanted to kind of jump on the AI topic. What are some things you're seeing with AI? What's kind of your view of AI at this point?
I think it's been great for both offense and defense. Again, cyber attackers have used it to sound more realistic and more convincing and more persuasive. These things are getting harder to spot, and even for me as a cyber professional, I have to slow down a little bit and really look at what people are asking of me, because it just is harder to spot. And on the other hand, it makes our lives easier because AI is able to detect a lot of fraudulent activity, and it,
Mhm.
it eliminates a lot of the mundane level one task that most companies have to deal with. So I think that it's done a good job helping both sides on offense and defense and cyber. Um, and it's something that I fully embrace, in my role every single day.
Awesome. All right, so we have a question. Does certification such as Security Plus, is it typically required for entry-level SOC analyst positions? What are you seeing?
I think it's recommended, especially because it's so competitive. I think at the entry level, cybersecurity is probably the most competitive field in the country right now, in the world right now. So, you got so many people going for a limited number of jobs. So I think it would, behoove you to try to make yourself stand out as much as possible. I mean, it could literally be the difference between you and another candidate being hired. So, but yeah, security plus stuff. I think that CC, certified in security by ISC squared, is a true entry level cert that can help you understand the foundations of cybersecurity. And I would recommend starting with that one. It's about 2 years old. It's free from ISC squared, and it's not as daunting, because I mean, going from not knowing cybersecurity at all to security plus is a tough one. And
Mhm.
I see a lot of people get discouraged and back out of trying to get into cybersecurity because it's difficult. So I think that certified in cybersecurity by ISC squared would be a great starting point. And there's also something about getting that certification and getting some momentum. Like, you feel like accomplished, and then you roll into security plus with at least some baseline knowledge. And yeah, and also I think the security plus is great because um, most of the entry level jobs, a lot of job interviewers are asking questions based on that, right? So they're just looking to trip you up with technical questions, and a lot of it isn't like practical, because they don't expect you to have that experience just coming out of college or being a entry level professional. So they'll, that's really what they have to go to. Like, they're asking the security plus pretty much interview questions. So I think it's important to be in the know and studying that. And it's really a marketing tool, to help you stand out from others.
Mm. Right, so I did see, Angel, you had a question.
Yeah. Hey, man. Quick question, man. I actually graduated from Texas Tech with an IT degree back in 2020. And ever since then, I've been working as a systems analyst, more like on the product owner kind of role, project management, and just seeing how, I guess, AI has changed the landscape of IT. I kind of realized, like, hey, things are going to get moving pretty fast in cybersecurity. You know, as AI expands, we need, or as technology expands, period, there needs, I guess cybersecurity plays a bigger role. But I'm finding myself in a situation where I'm enrolled at calling college for the cybersecurity degree, but I'm finding myself not to be qualified for those entry level positions in some instances, and more so for internships. where I apply and I don't even meet the qualification just because I'm already experienced in IT. So I guess my question would be, how can I sell myself from someone who has experience in IT for some of those entry level roles? Because I know I'm not capable of going into a mid level role yet in cybersecurity.
I think that you might be capable, and I think you gotta, reframe that and take ownership of the experience you do have. I think that
Mhm.
anybody that has experience in IT uh, can be an easier transition to cybersecurity than someone who doesn't.
Mhm.
Because it is a function of IT. Of cybersecurity is a function of IT. I would
Mhm.
encourage you to look at the role you have now and how that's applicable to security. I'm sure that you have some security requirements as an IT professional, and
Yeah, yeah.
like this is what's good about AI. Like I would use ChatGPT and say, um, spell out all your job requirements at your job, and then ask, how are these, or give me some resume bullet points that are applicable to cybersecurity. And you'll be surprised
Okay.
how much your role, aligns. And really, it's really up for you to make that connection in interviews and really market
Mhm.
yourself in a different way. So I would make my resume look less IT operational and really hone in on the skills that are applicable to security. So yeah, that would be my number one advice, is just that reframing. So, put out in your
Gotcha.
mind that you're not eligible. You need to go in with what you have done, and how you can help security team, because there's tons of help needed, around this country for sure.
Right. So with that being said, would you say maybe I guess I mean, I'm trying to like figure out where I'm at because everything I'm looking for is an entry level role. And I've also realized there's no real such thing as an entry level cybersecurity role, you know? And it's like, should I apply for those mid levels or should I just,
I think you should apply for everything, man. The more applications you put out, the more interviews you have, and then all it takes is somebody to like you. At the end of the day, you're gonna be working with these people for 40 hours a week, and people
right,
people hire who they like, so
right,
as long as you can explain, why your experience is relevant with confidence and conciseness, I think that yeah, there'd be opportunity for you. So I would encourage you to apply to as much as possible. Don't worry about
hmm,
another thing is, and I have a problem with this in cybersecurity, a lot of job descriptions are just catch-all. So they're asking for someone with 2 years of experience to have CISSP. And uh,
yeah, I've seen
I actually,
those.
I actually had a post go really viral on LinkedIn because of this, because I saw a company that's looking for 2 years experience, but they were requiring CISSP, which literally you have to have 5 years experience to sit for that certification. And I wrote
Yeah,
about it, and you had hundreds of people commenting with their frustration about these job descriptions. And actually, the person who posted the job saw it, reached out to me, and was like, "Hey, you know, I'm not happy that you put me on blast, but really thank you for highlighting this, because I just didn't know." And he changed the job description in the same day to make it more realistic for somebody that with that level of experience. So I think that, even for myself, I see roles that are asking for somebody to be technical, communicator, 10 years of
yep,
experience, use all these different tools, some tools that just came out. So I would just say, it's a numbers game. Keep reaching out, and just be cognizant of what they're asking for in these job descriptions, because you might see, hey, actually, I do this as a system analyst right now. This is a bullet point I can add to my resume, that
hmm,
security and is strong. So you don't have 0 years of experience in cybersecurity. It's just how you reframe it. So I would start
right,
with
okay,
GPT, and maybe plug in your current resume points right now, and then say, change these to security focused bullet points, and you'd be surprised how
hmm,
much experience that you actually do have.
gotcha. Appreciate that, man.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about, resume, right? You want it focused for the jobs you're applying for, but I guess, looking at resumes, Damon, what kind of tips and advice would you have for, especially a student or somebody looking at a little more entry level side? What are some resume tips and tricks that are gonna help?
Yeah, I think just really making your experience applicable to cybersecurity. I think another thing for me that's huge is LinkedIn presence. So, most jobs that I've ever gotten an interview for are on LinkedIn, and recruiters are looking. And if you are marketing yourself currently like a cybersecurity professional, then you're going to start hearing from recruiters. I see a lot of students say stuff like aspiring cybersecurity analyst. I think that's kind of weak, and that makes me as a recruiter say, "Oh, okay, this person isn't there yet, and I probably won't consider them for the role." So it's just being confident and taking ownership, and calling yourself, a cybersecurity professional, dressing for the job that you want. And I also see a lot of people with cap and gowns on. It's cute, but now you're in the big leagues, and you need to have a headshot that looks like a professional. So I think we got these tools that are free marketing tools, and people who are on LinkedIn who are raising their hand and talking about the experience they do have. You might be listening to a new podcast, just posting about that on LinkedIn, and posting about what you're doing. You'd be, I mean, I think only 7% of people are actively posting on LinkedIn. So, there are some people who I've seen grow so quickly and get so much experience just because they're talking about what they're doing, and and how much they're learning in cybersecurity currently, and that's all a good currency and a good way to market yourself there. So yeah, I would say really really share what you're learning, what you're doing, and there's not a shortage of free resources out there for us all to be learning about cybersecurity, and a lot of those things can go on your resume as well.
That's great. What is your view on the open to work banner for LinkedIn?
I think it's fine. I don't know how internal recruiters at your company view it, but I think it's fine. I think it's probably recommended because, again, as a recruiter, if I see that you have to open a work banner, I'll be quicker to reach out for opportunity. Um, I still do reach out to people that don't have the banner, but to me, that's like a harder sell. Now I have to really try to sell you and try to you know, remove you from your current seat where you may be happy. Whereas, people open to work seem, a little bit quicker to have that conversation. And then also it costs me less LinkedIn credits to reach out to a person that says open to work. It's free. So, if you have a recruiter who is mindful of how many people they're reaching out to, that could be a difference too. So I definitely would recommend having that open to work banner on.
Are you guys currently recruiting for this next season?
Yeah, I definitely have a few roles on my table at all times. But yeah, it's up and down. I'm looking for, the thing is, like, I don't really get entry level roles because every company can just put their role on LinkedIn and they'll have hundreds of applicants, whereas the mid to senior level professionals are tougher to find.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah,
companies bring me in for.
I was just looking at the website and you guys don't even list open positions. It's more
No,
of
I,
a
you know, I
simple
started just
resume.
because it's a lot to keep up with, but on
Yeah,
LinkedIn is where I'm doing all the dirty work recruiting for sure.
gotcha, man.
Mm, cool.
And I mean, even posted jobs, like once in a while, I will get, good candidate through posting, but most of the time I find the best candidates are, again, in a seat, and I'm approaching them with, trying to sell them the opportunity. Um, so yeah, that's how most connections are made for me.
All right.
So,
I guess
wh-
I'll be messaging you soon,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, feel free to reach out. I'll put my LinkedIn
mm,
information here in the chat.
mm, cool. Yeah, I follow Demond on LinkedIn, y'all. He definitely posts some good stuff. So when you're looking at candidates, like what's the biggest turnoff?
No profile picture or weak profile picture. Um, Again, I recommend people get professional headshots. It's a small investment to make your profile look a lot more powerful, and then you could repurpose these headshots for many reasons. Throughout the rest of your career. I mean, I get a new headshot every year. I think it's that important. So, no headshot, weak headshot. Um, Again, saying things like intern or aspiring. I don't even say intern. Like, just take ownership because you're doing that same work as employees in the company. Um, so if you have 2 years or 1 year as an intern, I just call that cybersecurity analyst, because there's really no difference. Um, Also, for you, Angel, I just thought about this. If you're currently working in IT, then I would definitely be reaching out to the cybersecurity department internally and saying, hey, how can I help you? Is there any mundane tasks that I can do to just to help my experience? Because trust me, they are overworked and there's a lot of opportunity. So,
Yeah.
any experience they can give you, internally would be great experience for your resume. And they might look at it as mundane, but for you, that's gold experience on your resume.
Yeah.
I'll definitely do
Yeah,
that.
for sure.
Um,
Bad.
another other LinkedIn red flags, it's just people who just don't seem to be active. I think it's important to post and engage and like posts and just be an active member, and like LinkedIn rewards you for that kind of behavior. Um, and just being up to date, being thorough, see somebody who hasn't updated their profile, or they stopped, they have a huge gap and they haven't, explained what they're doing lately. That just, it just looks like a person that probably won't engage back with me as a recruiter. So I would probably be less likely to reach out for opportunities.
All right, good tips. What do you find most challenging about your roles?
Um, Most challenging thing is, I think most companies are not willing to invest in security up front. They are usually kind of like life insurance, where people don't really want to think about worst case scenario until it happens. And then now they're blowing you up and they're in a rush, and they want me to have the same urgency as they do. Almost like, hey, I've been telling you for the past 2 years that upfront investment could resolve this. But now they want me to, they want to have all my attention, and they want to have calls all day because of they have a security incident. Whereas if they just had a little bit more of a proactive approach, that would help a lot. So I think people really are focused on security after a breach, or if they have a business opportunity that they need security to enable them. So right now, if you don't have certain cybersecurity certifications as an organization, you're locked out of industries. Like, you can't work with a bank if you don't have, certain certifications, or you can't work in the healthcare industry if you're not HIPAA compliant. So the cybersecurity compliance requirements are really becoming a business enabler. And if it's a new client that a company is working with, then they'll say, okay, we need all hands on deck. We need to hurry up and get this certification in the next 6 months, or they're going to go with another client or to go to another vendor. And that could be annoying when security is just an afterthought for most companies.
That's gonna be frustrating too, right? When you're like, I told you.
It's always, I told you, it's just going to be a matter of
It
when.
happens all the time.
All the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
No matter what, no matter how strong your security is, it's a matter of when you're going to be targeted and attacked. And it's, how quickly could you mitigate that risk and get back to business as usual?
Mm, yeah. Any parts of your roles that you kind of find like the least engaging, that you're like, I know I have to do this. Like, it's not my favorite.
Um, yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the stuff I do with third party risk management, which I do love. I think it's a big blind spot for most organizations. A lot of these companies are being breached through vendors and the trust that they have with them. But a lot of times for me, it feels like I'm just working in the background, doing my due diligence, and I'm sending these reports to people who don't really care about it. At the end of the day, people want to do business and they want to move as fast as possible. And security, most of the time, is not at the top of their mind. So, I might spend 2 hours evaluating a new vendor and, explaining the risk and doing a write up. And then the business owner just like, who cares? We just want to get to work ASAP. Like, I accept the risk, I sign off on it. And I'm like, okay, and again, it's not for me to tell them no, it's just for me to tell them, hey, here's the risk. And, if you sign off on that risk and then there's a breach, and yeah, we'll be doing the cleanup, but the business owner will be, held liable in that situation.
Yeah.
So, and also, a lot of times cybersecurity is a thankless field. Like, you're
Mm,
doing a great job, you don't hear your name, but as soon as you make a mistake, that's when you're, that you're in the news for bad reasons. So, being in a thankless field isn't for everybody.
yeah. Yeah. I guess that's something to think about, is like your impact. you have a huge impact, but yeah, if you're not getting that feedback unless something goes wrong, like that could be kind of difficult for some people.
Yep, yep.
Yep. Oh. Um, how do you balance kind of like work life? What does that look like? Because you got a lot going on.
I do, but I just have boundaries in place. I don't I try not to work too late. I'm usually offline by 6 o'clock. I do have some clients on the West Coast, and sometimes the nature of cybersecurity is people cyber criminals don't stop working at 6 p.m. and sometimes something happens overnight and you got to work it. But I schedule time to get to do things that I like to do. I don't really work much on the weekends. I play as much golf as possible, to the point where my friends think I don't work, but um, I do just try to set those boundaries. And I'm thankfully, um, in the compliance and strategy roles, it's a lot less stressful and time intensive than security operations where I started my career, where I was working overnight, working 1 a.m. to 9 a.m. and sleeping and getting right back to it. So I think that I've had different seasons of being very busy and bad work-life balance, but as of today, I have a pretty good balance for myself, I'll say.
Are you able to work remote, hybrid? Are you on
Yeah,
site?
yeah. I mean, it depends. I have some clients that ask me to come on site once a week and meet with them. And do some hand holding. But most of this stuff is remote. Since 2020, it's been more of a remote work environment, and um, I'm fortunate to only engage opportunities that will require me to be remote. But especially if you have a new client, it is sometimes they want you to meet everybody and be on site for a week or so. And then, after you get in a good cadence, you could, be in a more remote work environment. But yeah, there's a lot of different options out there these days. I am seeing a big push to be like hybrid or even back completely in office.
Mhm.
But there are tons of companies that don't require it.
Mhm.
Good to know. I know a lot of people are like the idea of remote, but sometimes you got to find out for yourself. But yeah, it's nice to have options. Right. Let's see. What's next for you? Like, are you working on any certs? What are you learning about?
Yeah, I think this third party risk thing is something that I'm really wrapping my arms around. I think it's something that is sorely needed at organizations, whether they know it or not. So I'm really enjoying learning more about this space and also learning more about the data privacy aspect. So working with bigger companies who are global, they got so many different requirements. Like from a GDPR perspective, GDPR is this general data privacy regulation. So if you hold any customer information in the UK, there's just so many stringent requirements about that. And I think people that have an understanding of that and really can help companies through it. There's a lot of money and opportunity for people to make in that space, and really understanding how businesses operate, what business processes and activities. So like, what are your main activities within your business unit, and then what applications do you use to support those, and then what third level applications are used to support that. Having that understanding and being able to map those things out and understand where data lies is something that's very important, and it's just becoming more and more important. So I'd like to get better at I would say third party risk and data privacy governance aspect of security. I think there's just a lot to be done in that space, and I would really want to become an expert at that. So I mean,
So,
certification wise, I got my CISM this in April, um, which is Certified Information Security Manager. I think CISA Certified Information Security Auditor, and then CRISC is Certified and Risk and Information Security Controls, something like that. Those are three certifications that are really sought after in the GRC space, and I really want to you know just become an expert in the GRC space and keep learning. I have no more desire to be any more technical than I am right now. It's just for me, I know what I don't want to do. That's it. I think it's as important to know what you do want to do as what you don't. So, I have I'm not trying to learn any coding language or do anything that technical anymore. I think my technical skills maybe at a 3 out of 10, and I'm happy with that. That's enough for me to understand what's going on and explain that risk.
So you don't necessarily have to be super technical to get into the space.
I think that I think there are more non-technical roles than there are technical.
Yeah.
I think it's good to have that, and from an interview perspective, it can make you look impressive. But there's a lot of roles that do not require much technical skill. So yeah,
It's actually very encouraging.
it is. I
Because
mean,
I'm right there, man. I'm like trying to find time to learn up my like Linux game, and I'm just like, there's just not enough hours in the day sometimes for me.
I think that yeah, I think you're doing the right thing, and you just at this point you got to just market yourself
Yeah.
like a security professional and keep interviewing, and one yes will change your life, and once you're in that seat you can start figuring out how you're going to move laterally and what
Hmm.
skill set or what subset of cybersecurity makes the most sense for you.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah,
So
for me security operations was good because it allowed me to be able to speak to a lot of different areas in security. If I had done it the other way around, then I'd be locked out of so many opportunities because not technical enough, and that's the same thing I kept getting. But I don't think you'll get
Yeah,
that feedback because you have the technical experience in IT.
yeah.
so Samuel, you've got a question.
Hey Samuel, you're
Oh,
on mute.
Hey, how you
Uh,
doing?
I don't know what. How you doing?
So I'm in school with Colin and everything like that, but I have a lot of sales experience. I'm kind of in the same boat. Like I don't want to do exactly a whole lot of this technical stuff, but how difficult do you think it is to get into cyber, like doing sales and stuff like that?
Cyber sales is huge. People make big time money doing cyber sales, and usually when you're in cyber sales, you are selling an individual product. So you don't have to be a master of many things. You just have to be knowledgeable about that product. So if you were, for example, selling Cisco products, then you would just, have to study and research what those products are, how they're implemented, and then you usually hand that off to a more technical resource. But people in cyber sales make big time money. So I think that I do see salespeople getting certifications so they can speak to cybersecurity more and sound more knowledgeable about it. So I think it's good to, to be learning just general cybersecurity terms, and something like Security Plus would still be beneficial to you, but it's not a career path where you would have to know every single thing. You just got to know about that one product and be able to know everything about it and be able to sell it. So I think it's a good space to be in.
For sure. Is there also a lot of like entry level positions for
Cyber sales, yeah, because a lot of cyber sales role they won't give you a great starting salary, but it's like you eat what you kill. So, if you're out there killing it, you can make a lot of money that way. And then at this point, like some point, you don't care about your base salary because you're making so much money in commission that the base salary is just something that's paying a light bill. But
for
yeah,
sure?
cyber sales is a good space to be in, and I encourage you to get on LinkedIn, start calling yourself a cyber sales folk, and reach out to people who are in cyber sales. I mean, just literally do a search cybersecurity sales, and then start reaching out to people saying, "Hey, my name is Samuel. I'm starting my journey off as a cyber sales professional. Can I put 20 minutes in your calendar just to ask you a couple questions about your journey and how you got where you are?" People love to talk about themselves, and you'd be surprised how many people will say yes to that, and learning from their experiences could help expedite the process for yourself.
For sure. Sounds very promising. Thank you though. I appreciate that.
Hey, do not be afraid. Don't be shy. You have to reach out to as many people as possible. And it's something that I've always done, I embrace, and it's something that I still do because I'm still trying to learn and grow. And I see other business owners doing well, and I want to get to where they are, and what better way than to ask for some more time.
Thank you. And I mean, I also do have one more question. I mean, I guess I'm trying to transition kind of away, like kind of, I don't know, my like if you look at my resume, it's just sales, sales, sales. and I'm just trying to see like what should I add on there, or should I just let them know like I'm doing school, or
Have you ever sold anything? Like, what kind of sales have you done? Any tech sales or IT sales?
No, it's mainly just timeshare sales. Like I have the experience of a salesman, but I don't really have the tech experience or that experience doing business to business or stuff like that. So
Um, yeah, I would probably. I mean, for you, if you have the free time, maybe try to get some free experience. Like, nobody says no to free. So, if you know, start identifying and having these conversations with people who are in cyber sales, and you say, hey, is there any work I can, help you do? Is there anything I can do? I'll give you some time. I have, 10 hours a week to work for free, or intern, or whatever you call. I wouldn't call it intern on your resume or your LinkedIn, but just offering your time and getting experience. I mean, there's again not a shortage of people who need help in that area. So I would try to get experience any way you could. Free experience is the same thing as paid experience, um, especially when it comes to your resume.
got you. Thank you. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
And look for internships too. They're out there. I've seen a few.
they're
So
out there.
yeah.
Again, it's so
It's hiring
competitive right
season.
now.
It's very competitive, yes.
It's very competitive, so it's just a numbers game at some point. You have
Oh yeah.
to market yourself the right way, and once you have that down, then you're going to market, applying to as much jobs as possible, LinkedIn, Indeed, following up,
Mm.
maybe even get one the LinkedIn Premium where it allows you to send emails to people. But I think that you should be spending a lot more time on LinkedIn than you are on Instagram, which I see a lot of folks are not doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now Handshake, like, because it's basically like LinkedIn for colleges basically now. They have a content feed, so it looks a lot
Oh,
like
really?
yeah, it looks a lot like LinkedIn. Employers will post, other students will post. So it's almost like a subset of LinkedIn in a way. So it's kind of cool. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's all
I'm not.
college level, entry level.
I'm not familiar with Handshake, but I would
Yeah.
say use that resource. Also, look at alumni
Yes.
from this program, from other school, high school alumni. Any way you can make a connection to somebody. If I see
Yeah.
I'm a big Eagles fan, if I see somebody as an Eagles fan, I'm gonna say, "Hey, go Birds!" And then I'm gonna get ask, and a lot of times people just want to talk about football, and then we get into the what the ask is, and how they can help, or if they could give me some advice, and that stuff. Again, people just they love to talk about themselves, and if you're a likable person, it makes it that much easier.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah, I know. I've gotten interviews just because I knew somebody, right? Or I know somebody that knows somebody, like, and you never know, like,
Yeah,
who
and
you're
most
gonna
of the
run
time
into.
that's gonna be it. Like I do
Yeah.
see I know some people will say, "Oh, I applied to 100 jobs and that's it." I'm like, "Well, you got to keep going the next mile. You got to reach out to people. LinkedIn has connection request limits, and I try to burn that out almost every week. So at the end by Friday, they're saying, "Hey, you can't reach out to anybody else." All right, well, I made the most connections I possibly could, and then again, just being on LinkedIn, talking, posting so much. Like you don't know how many times I've gotten on the phone with somebody and they're like, "Hey man, I've been reading your posts for the past 3 years," and like I wouldn't know that. I've never seen them like anything, but I'm active and people are seeing it and it's making an impact. So
Yeah.
just being loud about it and sharing your experience is something I would strongly recommend.
Yeah, it's kind of become it's a necessity. Like even if you don't like the hustle, it's or marketing yourself, it's a necessity now. Like
Sometimes I'm shocked when I see people in high places that aren't on LinkedIn. I'm like, I don't know how you did this.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
true.
for sure, for sure. So we're we're at about 9-10 minutes out. So what other questions do y'all have?
I have one question that's kind of out of the box, but not really. I mean, Jaman, with you and your firm, how do you approach, I guess, potential clients to sit down in a meeting and hear about your product?
I do a lot of different ways. I do like cold email marketing where I use the profile of a good, strong candidate. So I know somebody who's on the market. This person has great experience, a bunch of certifications. I will get a virtual assistant to send me a list of 200 job openings, and the I'd look for head of talent acquisition or head of HR or chief information security officer in a smaller company, depending. I try to ask them, hey, find out who could be the decision maker here. They'll send me a
Mm.
list of 200, roles and emails on it, and then I'll say, um, hey, I'll just cold email them, hey, I noticed that you're hiring for a director of cybersecurity. Um, I had this candidate Angel who has 12 years experience in the field. He has 6 certifications. He has this, and this. Would you be willing to have a conversation with him? A lot of times I get, hey, take me off your email list, or how'd you get my email? But once in a while I do get, hey, we're not looking for a candidate like that, but we are looking for this. Can you help us with this? Or yeah, we actually would like to speak to Angel. So for me, it's a numbers game, reaching out to as many people as possible. Also being on LinkedIn. Again, when I see people posting roles, because I'm connected to so many people in cybersecurity. I see them posting roles. I reach out to them and say, "Hey, I just finished a search like this for a client of mine in Nashville. Would you be, willing to review a resume?" So I get mixed results doing that, and then at this point, I started getting a lot of clients word of mouth because I talk about it so much on LinkedIn. People will say, "Oh, I finally do have a." I mean, yeah, you reached out to me 3 years ago, and I didn't have anything, but now I do have a role on my team. Could you help me with this? Or a lot of times, hey, that I can't, I don't have anything open, but I'm actually looking for a new job myself. Can we have a conversation? I'm just meeting so many people like that just by talking to them, hearing what they have to say, and trying to help them. A lot of times I don't have a role for them, but I'm having that conversation. I'm giving them advice. I'll take a look at their resume, give some feedback, and
Mm.
2 years down the line, now they're a director and they're hiring people on their team and they come back to me. So just the relationship building and networking is something that is helped me in business a lot.
And your network really never dies, right? Like you got people 3 years ago saying, hey,
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah, now I'm at the point where I place people in roles, and now they're hiring, and I help them. And they was like, hey, I definitely wanted to come back to you. I just remember how you treated me in the process, and they'll know I'll do my best work to have a person to be in that seat long term. So
so all right. So I always like to ask this at the end is if you were not in cybersecurity and your job did not exist, what would you do?
oh man, it's been so long since I thought about that. I mean, I'd probably be still in physical security, just being miserable and slowly working my way up. There, yeah, physical security was not terrible, but I just feel like I learned what I was going to learn. It's not that many new physical security threats happening, but cybersecurity threats are ever evolving. So that's why this work is just so much more fulfilling than the work I used to do in physical security. But um, who knows? I mean, physical security took a big hit after COVID because there was just less of a need for people to be in office and be in those spaces. So like I used to work at the NBA, and during the pandemic, I think 75% of the NBA security department got let go. I would definitely have been in that group of people who got let go. So, um, maybe I'd still be doing physical security. Maybe I would have, I thought I was going to be a lawyer after college, and didn't end up taking that route. But maybe I would have had to go back to law school and figure that out. But I got to get paid ultimately, so I would. I'd be always trying to push to be in an industry that's more higher paying than something like physical security.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. And any last words of advice?
Uh, Words of advice. My biggest piece of advice is, again, market yourself for the role that you want. Go get that headshot. Start calling yourself a cybersecurity professional now. The experience you're getting and what you're learning in school, most people don't even know that. And you got people in high places that don't know much about cybersecurity. So don't be afraid to raise your hand, meet new people, post on LinkedIn. If you get a new certification, make sure you post on that on LinkedIn, and a bunch of people congratulate you, and you'll be on their radar. If you just read an interesting article or listen to a podcast, post about what you thought about that. Use AI and ChatGPT to get more content out about what you're doing, and just be as noisy as possible about your transition and your desire to be a cybersecurity professional, because people are listening, and it just takes one person to see a post and like you and interview you, and now you're in your cybersecurity career. So keep fighting. Don't let the imposter syndrome get to you, and make as many connections as possible, because it is just a numbers game.
Awesome. Thank you so much for all of your advice, for taking the time to join us today. We really appreciate it.
Oh yeah, thank you for having me. And everybody connect with me on LinkedIn. I do post stuff like this all the time, and be happy to chat with you all, and help you wherever I can. So feel free to connect with me, and I'll be seeing it for sure.
All right. Thank you so much, Damon.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks everybody. Yeah, reach out to Damon, like connect. It's been what we said, 3-4 years. So
Yeah, 4 years.
yep, that connection, it's always there.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Well, y'all have a great evening and take care.
Thank you.
Thank
The
you.
same.
Cool.
Have a good night.